Hello and welcome to Your City. I'm your host, Lynne Turner Fitzgerald, and we have today Councilman Tom Rupsis here from Ward 5. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Lynn.
There's a bond project that's been talked about and is now in front of voters for some pretty big projects. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a $143 million bond of projects that have been delayed for decades.
Okay.
There are projects all around the city targeting people of all ages and all abilities, and just looking forward to talking about those a lot. They fall into three basic categories. The first category is things that we have that we need to repair and replace.
Okay.
And what falls into those categories are South Park. The pool there and the community buildings there are just well beyond repair and need to be replaced. The pool itself was first built in 1914.
Oh,
yes,
my.
absolutely. It's over 100 years old. And it's been changed a couple times since then, but it needs to be rebuilt. And the buildings there need to be rebuilt as a community center that can really operate as a third place for everybody in that area to gather, for the Parks Department to run programs out of, whether they're summer camps or senior activities, what have you.
It's a really beautiful park.
It is. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And that pool was the first public pool in Billings when it was built.
I used to swim there.
I'm sure not back in 1914. But
Yeah, I missed that. I missed the opening.
But yeah, it used to be a real source of pride for the community. And we need to
sure.
restore it to that spot or to that place in our community and to really give the people in that area a regional draw so that you have something exciting to come down to South Park.
Right. Well, there are so many components to this bond issue, and I believe we have a slide of the various projects and their locations, if we could look at that. So this is a lot. It's on the one behind us there.
Okay.
What is the Stagecoach Trail? I've never even heard of that.
Stagecoach Trail is a trail that will connect from the top of the rims at Zimmerman Trail down to Rimrock Road below. So it'll parallel Zimmerman Trail, but it'll be down below it. It can't be right along the road for engineering reasons.
It's a bike walking trail.
Bike and walking trail.
Okay.
Yep, that will be there and will connect the rims to the valley. We're working on a marathon loop around the city, so 26 miles of trails. And this is one of those key connecting trails that will, with the Skyline Trail that's going along the rims from Zimmerman down to the airport.
Wow.
We'll now be able to connect down to the valley below. There's another complementary trail there, the Yellow Jacket Trail, which will go up from MSUB up to where the airport circle is and join in that same trail corridor there.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the the south side
on
of...
the MSUB side, right.
Okay.
You probably see people walking, running, biking on that little single track trail.
And I'm afraid for them
when
I see them because it's not very wide.
Yep. So the plan is to move that guardrail in and narrow up those lanes a little bit because they're really wide.
Yeah, they are.
And we'll have a multi-use trail there as well. So connecting our downtown up to the rims.
What is Lillian to Colson?
So Lillian to Colson is part of the downtown to Colson Park connection. So it's actually two components there. The 25th Street Bridge will take pedestrians and bikes over the railroad tracks at 25th. And then you'll be able to head straight down on 25th and join up to Lillian around where the post office is.
Okay.
And go under the new underpass under the highway to connect over to Colson Park on the river. So we'll finally have a downtown to the river connection.
These are very ambitious, aren't they?
They are big projects that have been thought about and planned for years.
Right.
And we just have never had dedicated funding to do them.
Right.
We have not established any kind of dedicated funding source to do development projects for this aspect of our community.
Well, one of the biggest dollar amounts here is for a new rec center.
That's right.
Now tell me about that. Where's that?
So the rec center will be down at Amend Park, which is just off South Billings Boulevard by the highway. It's a concept that's been in development for 6 to 8 years. Started when there was a study done on the use of sports tourism to drive economic development here in Billings. And in 2018, the city purchased 10 acres next to Amend Park, just north of where the Dairy Queen is down there.
Oh, sure, okay.
Right in that corner. So we own that land. We purchased it with the intent of building a rec center there. And then right after that, we went into a more extensive master planning and feasibility planning process. We did a feasibility plan that basically said, yes, this is something that the city could use. It aligns with the Parks Department's master kind of comprehensive strategic plan, and it aligns with our overall community's need to do economic development in that part of the town. This is the right place to do it, and here are a range of options, anything from $30 million up to $130 million, I think the range was. So following that plan in 2019, we did a more detailed master plan and said, okay, well, we've got this wide range of 30 to 130 million. It could be anything. What's the right fit for Billings?
Yeah.
And through that process, and council ended up adopting this master plan this past year. And council actually encouraged people to say, look, if we're going to do this, then let's commit to it, and let's not build a 25-meter competition pool, because we can't extend that by another 25 meters in the future, right? Let's go ahead and plan for that 50-meter pool. Let's plan for 2 sheets of ice, because that's what the community needs. So let's challenge ourselves to do this and do this the right way. So the master plan for the rec center was completed and passed last year by council. The estimate was just under $113 million. And through this process of putting the package together, the proponents of the rec center agreed to trim off a couple $1 million, and so it's at $110 million to make way for some of the other projects. And $25 million of that will be funded through the SBURA, the South Billings Urban Renewal Area, the TIF district, right, which is a unique opportunity that we have to use existing tax dollars. That $25 million isn't new tax dollars. Okay. Those are already existing in the increment of all the increases property values that have happened over the last 15 years or since that SBURA TIF district was set up. And we can bond against that. So $25 million is there, and assuming we do this pretty quickly, then we will be able to use that full $25 million to help with this. So it's kind of time bound. Because the TIF district doesn't last forever.
Right. 25 million.
So 25 million is off. And then we have we expect to get another $13 million from advertising and naming rights and facility surcharges after it's constructed to also help pay for that.
Sure.
So we've got 38 out of that 110 coming from sources that are not new property taxes.
So you'll have an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Yes. Did I see 2 pools in that?
There's a leisure pool as well.
Okay.
Yes. Right, so one of the things that's important about this rec center is it is not a sports complex. It doesn't exist solely just to let kids swim and play hockey in their leagues. It is a community asset, and we want everybody in the community to use it and to benefit from it. So things like a leisure pool that can be used year-round, things like fitness equipment and an indoor walking track. They can be used when it's cold outside, and we kind of have some snowy, icy winters.
Oh, we do. We
like to get out there and still have some exercise. But we also have hot, smoky summers a lot of times, and a lot of people have respiratory issues and will benefit from using indoor recreation there. It also has 4 full-size basketball courts that can be broken down into smaller courts that'll be striped for multiple sports, not just basketball, maybe volleyball and pickleball or what have you, as well as the 2 ice rinks. A kind of clip and climb area in the entryway, so that kids of all ages can have some activities there. Maybe while a sibling is in a swim meet or something like that. Sure. It'll just be a great community gathering spot.
Well, I was going to ask you about the income potential from a recreational center like this. I know swim meets are pretty big. They bring in a lot of people. Yep. And I don't even know where they're being held in Billings currently, if at all. Yeah,
the last, I think, Class 2A swim meet had to be held down in Hardin because we don't have the facilities here. No. And so even around town, we don't have the facilities to hold these large events. Centennial Ice Arena can't, it's well past its useful life and is not really maintainable. That will go away within the next few years if we don't build something like this. And it's already booked to capacity. So there'll be ice also in the new rec center? Yes, 2 ice rinks. Wow. So we'll be able to... Year-round? Yes, available year-round. Right. So we'll be able to skate, do figure skating, ice hockey, curling, broomball, what have you. A huge number of opportunities there. Centennial Ice Arena is already booked from, I hear, 5:30 in the morning till 11:30 at night. So the ability to have 2 ice rinks will really allow us to expand that program. Well, I'm wondering again about the income potential that this
has there been any pen to paper on that?
There has, and in fact, I think I mentioned we'll have $13 million worth of revenues after the rec center is completed.
Right.
So some of that is advertising and naming rights, and we used a conservative estimate there of about, I think it was $400,000 a year over the first 10 years, and then it'll be renewed, but $400,000 a year for advertising and naming rights, and we got that from a study that the city helped pay for to look at what those naming rights and advertising is actually worth at a facility like that. So it's not just a number we came up with. We also estimated facility surcharges. So when you run a tournament or a league or you have an event there, generating an extra 10% of our normal program revenues from the rec center to help pay off those bonds as well. So that could be an extra $250,000 a year. All adds up to $13 million off the cost of that bond that then we won't have to turn around and ask taxpayers to pay.
Well, let's talk about the dollar amount again, and I think we have a slide on this too that will show exactly what you're going to pay as a taxpayer given your the value of your home. So we have it here. So at $100,000 annually, the fee would be $53.
Yep, yeah, precisely. It's $52.66 is what you'll see on the ballot. On the ballot this November, we have to list by state law the value of a $100,000, $300,000, and $600,000 home. So you'll see them to the penny on the ballot. It'll say $52.66 for the annual cost for that $100,000 house. If you have a $300,000 house, you multiply that by 3. It's $157.98.
How long does this go on?
It goes for 20 years, and then it's paid off. Right, so we have bonds existing. We have 3 different sets of bonds right now. One for some roads that were done around the year 2000. One for Dealer Park that was done 2005, 6 in that time frame. That's almost paid off now, so that'll be going away. And then we have the library. So after 20 years, these assets are paid off, and they come off the property tax rolls.
Well, but as we move through this 20 years, there's going to be maintenance, I imagine.
There's
Is that already?
So the maintenance isn't part of the bond.
Okay.
On the rec center itself, we expect there to be an operating deficit on the rec center. These types of facilities never are profit-making ventures, right? So everywhere around the country, rec centers lose money.
Really?
They're subsidized, either by the government or some other entity.
Okay.
In our case, we have a tourism business improvement district, which is all the hotels in town. And they've created this district, and they assess themselves. This isn't the city saying, we're assessing it, but it's essentially a bed tax. It's a self-assessment that the hotels vote and they agree to. Right now it's at $2. They're going to increase that so that they can cover the operational deficit of the rec center.
Oh.
And over the next 10 years, that's estimated to be up to $8 million. So
That's not per year.
No, total.
Oh, total, okay.
Over the next 10 years.
Right.
So the master planning actually said it should be $500,000 to $700,000. The T-bid has committed to up to $800,000 per year. So over 10 years, that's $8 million. That's money that the taxpayers don't have to pay. And it's smart business sense by the T-bid. They understand that this rec center will pull in a lot of activity here to Billings. And so they will have swim tournaments and hockey tournaments and anything you can imagine. And they'll benefit from that. So I think it's good, and we're glad to have them as a partner.
Right. So it really is an economic driver of sorts.
Absolutely. The Visit Billings estimates $25 million in the first year just from these events of economic impact to our community. So those are people.
Those are new dollars too,
Those are
right?
new dollars coming into
Wow.
the city. These are people that would normally be going to Spokane or Boise or somewhere like that. But because we have a facility here in Billings, not only can our own families stay here in town and not take their money elsewhere, but we can pull all those people here to Billings, and they'll stay in our hotels, they'll eat at our restaurants, they'll shop at our stores. These are all good things for our economy.
Right.
So $25 million to start in the first year, and they feel that's a pretty conservative estimate.
Well, is there any other facility like this in Montana?
There isn't. No, Great Falls is building a rec center right now, but it's very small compared to this. Other cities are talking about things. Bozeman is talking about a rec center, but it's actually combined with a library. Nobody in Montana has a facility like this or is even planning on something like this. This will really put us ahead as a regional asset and a regional draw.
Absolutely. So tell me, when are we voting on this?
November 7th, the ballots will be due back.
November
Yep.
7th.
So our ballots will come out, it's an all-mail ballot, so they'll come out at the October 18th or somewhere around there.
Okay. So let's be positive. Let's say it passes.
Yes.
When does work begin?
Work begins on November 8th, honestly.
Wow.
Yes. So one of the first things that will happen is our city administrator will set up a committee to help us do some analysis on the rec center in terms of what's the best way to manage that facility, right? Is it a private firm managing it? Is it the Parks Department? What is the best management option for that facility? And we want to do this analysis up front and in a way that's not political.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, we saw at Metro Park what
Exactly.
happened with privatization, the idea.
Right.
It
So
got
we
a
want to be
little bit
very
ugly.
upfront with that. And so this committee will have some very specific guidelines. First and foremost is this rec center will be a community asset for the benefit of our community.
Mm-hmm.
And the economic drivers of sports tourism are a secondary, although important benefit as well. Right. So we as council have established or passed a resolution that says this is exactly how we want all these projects to work. And that was a key component of the rec center. It's like, we want to do this analysis, we want to be fair and transparent, but if the numbers say that this is the right way to run this center, we need to respect that and move forward under that operating model. So that will happen immediately. The other thing that will happen immediately is setting up these community steering committees. So every one of these projects around town will have a committee made up of local residents to, say, if it's Castle Rock, people in the Heights, people who own businesses in the Heights, local residents that will really make the decisions on that, that park, which amenities and assets are first to be built, what the design features are. Every project has been constrained by a budget, right? So we've established budgets for every one of these projects. And those community committees will help make those decisions, make recommendations, and we wanted that approach rather than somebody sitting in an administrative office making a decision of, we're going to do this, not that.
Yeah.
We want that to be community-led.
But will these community meetings be led by a council member or somebody from administration?
There'll be a council member on each committee,
Okay.
But they'll be self-led. They'll be community-driven. It won't be essentially somebody from the Parks Department saying, you're my committee, now here's what I want you to do. Here's what I want you to pass, right? This has to be a community-led process.
Mm-hmm.
So every committee will elect their own chair. They'll have, all the meetings will be open to the public. It'll be very transparent and really community-driven.
All right, so we were just playing positive here a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Let's go negative for just a minute.
Sure.
If it fails, will it come back?
Well, I'm not sure what it looks like. Something will have to come back. These are literally projects that have been delayed for decades.
Right.
South Park Pool can't continue to operate like it does.
Would it have to close?
We very well may be in the process of
Yeah.
closing that pool. In fact, it closed down early, a couple of weeks early last year because a pump went out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's not the type of service that we expect in our community and certainly in that neighborhood. So something will have to come back. I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm not sure how we dig ourselves out of this hole without a large ask. Yeah. And that's been one of the challenging parts, just politically, is trying to figure out how to pull all the factions together to work towards something that advances us as a community, but also respects the ask. Right? This is a large ask of our community, and we have to be very conscious of that, especially as our property appraisals just went up, and we're looking at what the impact of that is. So we're very conscious of that. Right. If it does pass, those taxes won't hit this year. There'll be no impact on this year's budget. Next year, we expect about a third of those bonds might be issued. Right? So the bonds will be issued in like 3 series, in 3 pieces, over 3 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. Right? So this will scale up as opposed to hitting all at once. So we've had to really think through is, how can we be respectful of people and understand that the impact it's making, but also continue to drive forward with the need for this type of investment in our community.
Right. So these are mail-in ballots that
They're all mail. Yep.
Okay. They're not out yet, are they?
No, they'll mailed out, I think, around October 18th.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So about 6 weeks
Okay.
until those come out, and they'll be due back by November 7th.
And that's only to property owners?
Well, everybody registered.
Anybody who's registered to vote?
All
Okay.
registered voters, right?
Okay.
Everybody will pay for this. So we do hear sometimes that why do property owners pay for this and renters get off scot-free? Well, I'm sorry, but renters pay property tax too. I don't know a single landlord around the city that just eats that cost.
Right.
It will be passed through to renters as well.
Mm-hmm.
We think it's important for everybody, renting or owning, no matter what.
All right. Well, what did we miss?
Well, there's so many different projects all around the city. I started talking about, repair and replace. We got the South Park. We didn't talk about North Park Center or Zimmerman Center. Those are two community centers that we have right now that are deteriorating and inadequate for the types of programs that we need to run.
Zimmerman Center is old.
Yes, they both are. And yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So those will be rebuilt so that we can run more programs, more senior services, those types of things.
Right.
The next category of parks projects are projects that will get us finished with partially completed parks, right? So we're talking about Castle Rock Park in the Heights, Centennial Park on the West End, and also Poly Vista Park, which is at the site of the new Miracle League field. If you haven't been out there on a Saturday morning, I really encourage you to go out there and see that. It's amazing. It's awesome. But we need the fully accessible and inclusive playground and splash pad there as well as improvements to the baseball plaza. But at Castle Rock and Centennial, we'll put community centers there so that we can finally have programming that isn't just downtown. We can have programs run in the Heights and the West End, whether they're summer camps for kids, senior programs during the day, what have you. Everything will be available closer to your neighborhoods. And we'll build out Castle Rock with the exciting features like pickleball courts. We don't have any pickleball courts in the Heights, so let's get some up there.
You can't get enough pickleball.
Pickleball. Everybody loves pickleball. But a market space where we can have food trucks and events and craft fairs and all that kind of stuff. Event shelters, so you can have 100 people for a family reunion or a company picnic, something like that. A natural amphitheater. The master plan for Castle Rock is amazing. It'll be one of the most active, incredible parks in the city if we can complete this. On the West End Centennial Park, we put in the infrastructure at Centennial. We've got a couple big grass fields there now, and we've got a beautiful dog park that's getting a lot of use. But we don't have a playground. We don't have a splash pad. We don't have an event shelter or picnic shelters, those types of things.
And you notice that when you drive by and it says Centennial Park and you look at it and you go, that's not much of a park.
There's just empty grass because council at the time just decided to just put in the infrastructure and not set up any kind of ongoing funding source so that we could tackle these things a little bit at a time. So those parks are all kind of finished what we've started. And then finally, we have some unique opportunities to really tackle some projects that have some financial benefits to them. The Recreation Center is a big one of those. The trails projects all fall into that category. We talked about the Stagecoach Trail. That's actually a $5.5 million trail that we have already received a $4.7 million federal grant for.
Really?
All we need is the remaining $800,000.
Wow.
We don't have it sitting around.
Right.
Billings TrailNet has raised $100,000 towards it, but we need $700,000 more. All the rest of the trails projects will use that federal program to take off $2 out of the $6 million of the trails, right? So that we need the matching funds to go with that. We also have Cottonwood Park on the far west end and Colson Park on the river. Again, we have money that has been sitting there raised either privately for Colson Park through donations or the Exxon oil spill refinement or settlement fees. Right. That's at Colson. We've got $600,000. We've got to be able to use that. So we're going to put a couple $1 million there. And then out at Cottonwood Park, we've got $400,000 of cash in lieu funds that developers have contributed as they've built out subdivisions on that west end for 20 years. We need to put that to use instead of letting that sit there. So we'll put $1 million in and get some small improvements done and start the ball rolling at Cottonwood as well.
It's very ambitious. It's
and
very ambitious.
We didn't even talk about the water reservoir.
Okay, next time, because
Yes.
we've run out of time here. Yeah, I did. No, we've got a couple of minutes. What is the water reservoir?
We're building water reservoirs out at Hesper Road between Shiloh and 48th. So the water reservoirs are being built no matter what to deal with our water security issues. Right now, if we have our water supply cut off because of an oil spill or a train wreck or something like that, we have literally
as in
hours.
Recent memory.
Exactly. We have literally hours of water supply for the city.
Okay.
The water reservoirs will make that so that we have 2 months of water supply.
Oh, that's smart.
But what we don't get the money for, we can pay those out of our water fees, but we don't get the money to make that truly an asset that the whole region will enjoy. So putting in a beach, putting in piers for boating and docking and those kinds of things.
Couple more Lake Elmos.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally 2 Lake Elmos, and we'll make it in just an outstanding regional amenity with this bond.
Very exciting.
It so is.
Tom, I want to thank you for being with us.
I really appreciate the time, Lynn.
And I want to thank you for joining us too. Watch for those ballots coming out in October sometime.
Yep, 6 weeks.
And election day is the
November 7th.
November 7th. All right. Again, thank you, Tom. And thank you for joining us on Your City. Hope you can join us next time.